Hey guys, greetings from Sydney. The weather here is really cold and thank God I brought enough warm clothing. The last couple of days has really just been catching up, lots of food and knowing new friends, such as the Sydney cell group here, as well as TNC's friends. I think the most impressionable time was the time with the Sydney cell group on last Friday, seeing how many Asians from different hometowns gathering together to give thanks and praising God together. I think it's always amazing to be, even though so far away from home, so far away from the usual church and cell group, to see people from different backgrounds just coming together to worship and praising God and giving thanks to all that He has done. Um, in fact, even as I sought the Lord as to what to share during these few minutes in this video, I was brought back to a verse that was shared during the cell group. Remember Gideon? Judges 6:15 says that Gideon was just a farmer, threshing wheat and doing his own thing when God has called him to lead and rescue his people out from the hands of the Egyptians then. And in his own words, in Gideon's own word, he was from the weakest clan, the Manasseh clan, and the least in his family. And while Gideon may seem to be the weakest and least in his perspective, and perhaps in reality he may not be very skillful or strong, perhaps even a very small guy, not exactly your typical general and leader who can really bring the people out from into salvation, God still never stopped in calling him to serve and to lead. In fact, as we read in Judges 6:14, in response to Gideon's insecurities, God simply said, "Am I not sending you?" This reminds me of the general who in the gospel told Jesus that with Jesus' simple declaration that his son will be healed, the general simply said, "God, there's no need for you to go over." To the general, it was good enough that Jesus declared healing. It was good enough and even more important to general that God has actually ordained the healing, planned for the healing, and made it happen. That it wasn't the importance of Jesus physically being there. Imagine the President of the United States to send his military overseas. Would the soldiers be fearful? Ordained by the President? Probably not, in that they always know that there's a backing behind them. Or on a less positive example, look at the kids today. Many don't even fear their teachers because they know that their parents are behind them. Nothing can really happen to them. In our walk with God, us preparing for the 40 days up, juggling of work, ministry, studies, or even facing some challenges in our lives and doubts and questions of whether we have enough time and resources to do everything God has called us to do, or perhaps even whether we have what it takes, the faith to do what God has called us to do. I think the most important assurance for us is to remember who has called us and what He has called us into. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." The emphasis really isn't on the task of what we do, what we have in our hands, whether we have enough. I mean, seriously, even if we have enough, we all know very well that that's still not enough to do the supernatural for God. But when we are on track with God, in the plans He has called us to, be affirmed and encouraged to know that God will definitely give you all you need to fight a good fight and finish the race. Really want to encourage each one of us to go for the 40 days up training this coming Wednesday and be part of this Gideonite army. Even as Mirabelle shares the word today, or perhaps she has already shared, when you pray for one another, pray that each other and for yourselves, that you have in full assurance as God's beloved children, that God will provide for all that He has called you into. Pray that you have also the sensitivity to do what God has called you to not just go into your 40 days of wilderness, but be sensitive and know and be hearing what the Holy Spirit tells you to do every single step of your way. Because as you are responding to the purposes God has called you to, as you're answering to the purposes God called you to, it is always enough. In fact, it is more than enough. So today's assurance to you is really God is asking you, am I not sending you? And if God has sent you, if God has called you to do what you're doing, you will always have more than enough. So God bless you and well, pray with me. Pray that I'll not fall sick in the cold. pray with me that I'll really have a fruitful time catching up with the rest of the guys here. I pray that I'll have a really, really good time at the conference as I seek to hear from the Lord. I pray that you too will have a powerful. You had a powerful weekend, especially at service, and that I look forward to meeting up with all of you and sharing more as to what I hear from the conference as I meet all of you next Sunday at service and cell group. So God bless you. Thank God for you. Love you guys and really miss you guys. So take care. Bye bye.